The Taliban's return has plunged the Middle East into uncharted waters. In 2001, the fall of the Taliban was the first major milestone in America's so-called war on terror that ultimately transformed both the country and the Middle East. 20 years later, the group's return to power in Kabul has thrust the region, still limping from the unspeakable damage of that war, into uncharted waters. If the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan prompted intensified American intervention in the Middle East, then its exit from the country also signals an accelerated drawdown from a region that has long served as a gravitational center of political tension. The dramatic scenes from Afghanistan have sounded alarm bells throughout the Middle East, raising the specter of a hasty undoing of an economic and political order that has hinged on, or sought to counter, a large U.S. presence in the region. A flurry of diplomatic and military activity preceded the withdrawal from Afghanistan. A year ago, a wave of normalization agreements between some Arab countries and Israel spurred then-President Donald Trump to say, "We don't have to be there anymore. We no longer have to be in areas that at one point were vital." President Joe Biden has continued down that path. On Tuesday, the U.S. president vigorously defended the pullout and final chaotic scenes in Kabul, adding that the era of invading countries with intentions of installing American values was no longer viable. He argued that the U.S. no longer had a clear purpose in an open-ended mission in Afghanistan, and that the U.S. withdrawal signaled ending an era of major military operations to remake other countries.
With a laser focus on China, Biden's administration has made it crystal clear to U.S. regional allies that they should no longer depend on the U.S. for their security needs. States would need to fend for themselves. For the Middle East, this changes everything. The hasty U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, the strong return of the Taliban to the Afghan capital and the escalation of the Iranian threat indicate that the Gulf security equation will be very different this century compared to the last, wrote UAE political commentator Abdul Khalaq Abdullah in an opinion piece for the Abu Dhabi-based The National newspaper. The Gulf is on the verge of huge security and military transformations, perhaps the largest since 1971, when the U.S. assumed responsibility for its security and turned it into an American Gulf, in a strategic sense, wrote the Emirati professor, who is believed to be close to Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed. It may not be the same during the next 5 decades. The other theory suggests that the absence of a reliable U.S. military partner will expedite diplomatic efforts between traditional foes to dampen tensions and reduce the need for a robust defensive strategy. Gone are the days when the U.S. would throw its military might into rescuing regional allies, such as in the 1991 Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. The U.S. military's inaction after Saudi Arabia's oil refineries were attacked in a 2019 drone strike blamed on Iran spoke volumes about the U.S. new regional calculus. In his first news conference after becoming Iran's new president in June, hardliner Ebrahim Raisi returned the gesture, saying that he was keen to reopen embassies in the Saudi and Iranian capitals. The two countries have held several rounds of talks since early 2021 in an attempt to ease decades of tensions. There are also signs of other regional rivalries being tempered. The UAE has held high-level talks with Turkey and Qatar, who it long accused of supporting terrorism. Saudi Arabia has made similar overtures. Last weekend in Baghdad, a regional summit also appeared to send complicated signals about the future of the region. A meeting between Tehran's newly minted Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian and UAE Prime Minister Mohammed bin Rashid on the sidelines of the event was the most high-level meeting between the two countries in years. But Amir Abdollahian has apparently not met with his Saudi counterpart, who was also present at the summit. Instead, he seemed to go out of his way to avoid him. Breaching diplomatic protocol, the Iranian top diplomat stood in a row with country leaders during a group photo. His assigned placement was next to the Saudi top diplomat, alongside other foreign ministers. At breakneck speed, the region has seen local actors trying to fill American shoes. Sometimes this is literal. Images of Taliban fighters kit up in U.S. military gear inspecting aircraft hangars shocked people around the globe. What an extremist group will do with access to some of the world's best weaponry is not yet clear. And the wider region is on the edge of its seat as those surreal scenes flash on its screens. As uncertainty abounds and the Middle East becomes crippled by diminishing resources, Shabani predicts that the region's many autocrats will double down, and that unrest will worsen. Already this has manifested in some parts of the Arab world, such as in Tunisia, where a sweeping power grab by President Kais Saied last month, ostensibly to weed out corruption and mismanagement, met virtually no popular protest. In crisis-battered Lebanon, which is quickly descending into lawlessness, many on the country's streets openly call for a military dictatorship. We're going to turn more towards less ideology and more towards good governance, added Shabani. What this means is more tolerance of authoritarian rule if it is accompanied by prosperity. But if it's not accompanied by prosperity, then we're going to see even worse ahead.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.